especially if there's someone like me who's very stubborn, they're gonna want to, make the solution seem like it was their idea.
That means I'm moving. I made a few mistakes, but I'm improving. I'm human, but I've been making daily resolutions. I got to. You might do it different, but I'm not you.
Hey, Mark.
I'm self-made. I'm
Hey, Mark.
doing things that I
Mark.
was never taught.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Hey Mark, the podcast where I, Mark, get to have open and authentic conversations with, myself to my phone. But sometimes I get to interview people. Sometimes I get to have people send clips in. And basically, I'm able to give my 2 cents, start conversations, and basically have these conversations started around topics that might have, stigmas around them, might not come up in everyday conversation, or just might be a little bit difficult for us to bring up and talk about. And so that's why I'm doing this. That's why I run this podcast, is just to kind of make everybody out there that's listening, that means you, yes, you, to let you know that you're not alone. No matter what you are dealing with, life can and will get better. And so I'm gonna roll the clip. I'm gonna listen to it live with you guys right now. Hopefully the audio doesn't sound all weird. I'll probably have to edit it after, but let's jump into this clip and I'll give my 2 cents.
Hey Mark, so I have a question for you. I'm just wondering, how would you handle trying to help someone, but they're not really taking your advice? Because I know within myself, sometimes when I really care about someone and I want to help them, I feel kind of helpless and defeated, because you just kind of want to just step into their brain and help them and just do it for them, but you can't. So I'm just wondering, what would you do, or how would you handle the situation if that happens?
So analyzing this situation, I find myself in this situation all the time, which is why a question like this really actually fires me up, because it's something that I've been struggling with. It's something that I see other people struggle with. It's something that, like she said, sometimes you just want to jump in someone's brain and figure out a fucking problem for them, because you're looking from an outside perspective at their, struggle or adversity, and you think probably the solution to their situation, and you just want to drill it into them. And it seems like common sense to you, and for them it seems like such a big debacle, and so you just want to jump in their brain and solve the problem for them, right? But this is such a tricky situation, because the very first thing that you're assuming is that you know what's best for them, you know what's going to make them happy, you know which direction in their life that they want to go in. You're making all these assumptions like you know what's best for them. And sometimes in life we have people that are close to us, maybe friends, loved ones, family members, whatever it is, whatever your relation is with them. Sometimes we have a person in our lives and they're with us, they're close to us for years and years and years, but maybe they've been kind of tailoring their behaviors or their habits towards making you happy. And then after a while, their true self almost comes out. And because this seems out of the blue for you, you want to kind of solve that, what you see as a problem, and you want to start to enforce some, behaviors or habits onto them to get them back to where they were before. But that might not have been their true self. Maybe they were, unfortunately pretending to just kind of make you happy, or they were playing a role that they thought they had to play. At the end of the day, maybe something isn't clicking for them and they're trying to, navigate their lives into a different place, right? It's the assumption that if I'm trying to help you out, I'm assuming I know what's best for you. I'm assuming that, I know where your destination is, and I know where you're starting from, and I know every single step along the way. And that's just not entirely true. It's not possible even to know that much about somebody, because we know even in ourselves that the things that we want, the destinations we want to go to, the goals that we have can change, can evolve, or just completely pivot and switch directions sometimes. And so if it's hard for us to know where we want to go, you could imagine how difficult it is to know where someone else wants to go, what they view as success, what they view as happiness. And we try and enforce what we think is happiness and success onto them. Our versions of success and happiness, we try and push onto somebody else. And so that's kind of one of the first problems with like I said, trying to force someone to grow or develop in certain ways. And it can actually create resentment between the two of you, because if you are trying to enforce something on somebody and they're telling you, hey, this is not where I want to go, this is not what I want to do, then it's going to create resentment towards them. They're like, why is this guy trying to pull me off task? Why is this guy trying to take me away from the course that I'm trying to follow, right? So that's kind of one side of the coin. The other side of it is maybe you do know where they want to go, and maybe you do know what they're wanting out of life, but they're just consistently making mistakes, you know, what you view as a step backwards, and you know, what they view as like a step backwards, right? And so they're either repeating the same mistakes over and over again, or there's just new mistakes all the time that are kind of just holding them back from executing on the little things in their lives. Say you know of their goal, and you can see that their everyday behaviors, their habits are just not really consistent or congruent with that. You know, one approach is to sympathize with them and let them just continue doing whatever it is that they want to do, and pretend that you're just as confused as they are why they're not moving forward in their life. Maybe then they'll come to a realization on their own, but a lot of the times what we do try and do is try and force a solution down their throat, you know? But I've heard it so many different places, I've said it so many different times, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with this as well, which is, you know, the saying or the notion that you can take a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. So, you know, you might find yourself stranded in a desert one day in a weird world where horses can talk, and the horse looks at you and says, man, I'm so fucking thirsty. And you go, oh, okay, like, come over here, bro. And you lead the horse towards a body of water, maybe a lake, a pond, whatever, a watering hole. And you can take that horse to the pond or the water, you can take the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. If he's sitting there still bitching and he's kind of looking around and his situation sucks and he's like, oh, I can't bend down because my knees are jammed up and I don't have a straw that's long enough for a horse, whatever it is, right? You can take the horse to water, you can get a straw in his mouth, you can do all of the necessary things before the action, but when it comes down to it, the person that you're trying to help, the horse, the person, whoever it is, you can't force them to drink. You can't force them to do the things that you're seeing in your head, the solutions you're envisioning in your head. And that's a really hard thing to detach from. But, you know, a lot of times in life, we are going to have these people around us. These are going to be, you know, it's not going to be people that you don't care about. It's always going to be people that, you know, you love because you want to help them, right? So it's always going to be someone that's close to you, a family member, a friend, a loved one, a partner. And you see the water and you see that they're thirsty and you want to fucking make them drink it. But there's no way to do that. And so what do I think is the best solution, right? Because the more you try and enforce something on somebody, the more resentment is going to build. The more, you know, they're going to want to push back on that. They're going to want to try and make it, especially if there's someone like me who's very stubborn, they're going to want to, you know, make the solution seem like it was their idea. So even if they know that that's the right solution, because someone else brought it to them, they might be like, no, fuck that. And then they'll revisit it in a couple months and be like, hey, I found this crazy solution. And you're just going to kind of have to give them a pat on the back and pretend, yeah, bro, that was all you. And obviously that's actually going to boost their confidence a little bit. But yeah, you can take the horse to water, you can't make the horse drink. So what is it that I think is the best way to go about a situation like this? Well, if it's somebody that's close to you, if it's somebody that sees you often, you know, like a roommate or someone you live with, then the best way to kind of overcome a struggle that you see them overcoming is to kind of almost emulate it yourself. And so you can do that in the past. You can say, you know, the old feel, felt, found technique where, hey man, I completely know how you feel. I felt like that in the past as well. And when I did feel like that in the past, what I found was X, Y, and Z. This is, of course, after you ask their permission to give them advice on whatever struggle that they are struggling with. So that's one way to do it. You can talk about the past, how you've been through a similar experience. And then, you know, a lot of the times they're going to be like, oh, well, your experience wasn't exactly similar because I have X, Y, and Z problem in my life that you didn't have to deal with. So that's one approach. The other approach is just to lead by example. And so say I see someone struggling with a struggle in their life, I guess, you know, not to completely fuck my own life up, but try and emulate that problem and try and emulate yourself overcoming that problem and lead by example. Whether it happens consciously or not, it might be subconsciously, they'll see you kind of overcoming whatever hurdle it is that they're going through, and they might not connect the dots, like I said, consciously, but at least then you give them an example of, you know, this is a new way that they can kind of overcome this problem, a new perspective on it. They see you overcome it without stressing. They see you just act on it. And, you know, that might actually help them out, motivate them, or show them the way to overcome whatever problem they're going through. And so just to kind of summarize this entire thing, this has kind of been a longer rant than I intended it to be because, well, I got caught up in weird little analogies and details, which is, I guess, something that happens pretty often here. But let's kind of go back to the beginning. So first off, you don't always know what success and happiness looks like for the other person. You might just be trying to enforce some weird restrictions or boundaries that you've set on yourself onto somebody else, and that might build resentment or some negative emotions there, right? So the number one thing, don't assume that you have all the answers. Assume that, you know, you're not the smartest person in the world, and other people might have perspectives that are different than yours. You know, maybe you might want to try and lightly suggest something, but you're not going to want to try and enforce it on them. So second thing is, if you do know what their end goal is, if you do know what success or happiness looks like for them, and you know the struggle they're going through, and you see the body of water that can get the horse to drink, you can't make the horse drink, right? All you can do is kind of take your own straw, dip it in the pond, and drink your own water, and hopefully they catch on sooner rather than later. And then the very last thing, which I haven't said yet, is look, like if you have someone that's kind of consistently struggling with things in life and they're getting feedback from all angles, and you know, people are trying to help them out, people are trying to give them solutions, and they're just combative and they're resentful about it, and they're just pushing everybody away because they have a wall built up, then maybe it's time to just take a step back. You know, understand that you're going to spend more energy trying to help them than is really necessary, and it's going to pull away from your own life. Not only that, their pushback is going to be their main focus, and when they're resisting and resenting you for trying to enforce some sort of like weird restriction on them, it's going to pull them off track of other areas in their lives as well. And so it's just going to be a bunch of negative energy, and sometimes it's best to just take a step back and let, you know, fires kind of burn themselves out rather than just consistently trying to, you know, change the situation. It comes back to control what you can control. You can't control other people, you can't control the world. All you can control is how you react to it. And so control that as often as you possibly can. I hope that helps you out with bringing you a new perspective with this situation. Like I said, this one hits close to home because it's something that I find myself in all the time. So I hope that helped you out. If you have any other, you know, perspectives or solutions on a topic like this, and you're watching this on Instagram or YouTube, drop it in the comment section below. Help out other people that are listening to this or watching this. And if you're listening to the podcast version of this, thank you so much. Feel free to check out the videos, or if you like sticking to the podcast version, by all means do so, but please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That's all I got. Thank you so much for the support, the love, much love, and peace out.